What's up, man? It's your boy G Bush right again with another recap. Cleveland Browns versus the Washington Redskins. I want to get into this really quickly. I will apologize for the picture. I'm just using the regular sunlight that I got coming into the room I'm in. My ring light actually broke, so it's a little darker, so I will apologize for that. I won't move around too much because the autofocus on this camera is a little shoddy. So I'll just get right into the nuts and bolts of it, and hopefully I can get the recap done so I can take advantage of the sunlight that I do have coming in. I also want to get into some technical things a little bit and make this blog a little bit and make some kind of adjustments and dig deep into a couple of concepts that I want to actually talk about that was very evident that I saw in this recap. First of all, Washington Redskins. I want to give it up to a couple of people, and I want to really break down some stuff with the Redskins. First of all, Browns, they got the win, but there were some things that I saw with the Browns that are still evident, and there's some still things that the Browns have to go and continue to work on the path to getting better, to be ultimately what they want to be. The Redskins, for me, and I'll just come out and say it, the Washington Redskins had 5 turnovers, and I'm living in the state of Ohio, and I'm familiar with Dwayne Haskins. Only 1 year of playing football at Ohio State, and if people don't realize what Dwayne Haskins' story is, he only played 1 year, played under Urban Meyer, played under Ryan Day, who's the current head coach right now, and he came at Ohio State, had 40-something odd touchdown passes. Only had 1 year in the system. They threw the ball more at Ohio State than I've ever seen an Ohio State team throw. And he lit it up. But for me, it's painfully obvious that from watching the game today and studying him over the first year, he's not the quarterback of the future. He's just not. He had 5 turnovers today, and he does things that are just painfully obvious that show that he's just not the quarterback of the future. His ball placement, his awareness in the pocket, he stares down receivers. He's staring down receivers, and linebackers are baiting him. Smith today baited him. Carl Joseph baited him. A safety for the Browns baited him on interceptions. You can see his pocket awareness and his pocket presence aren't the greatest thing in the world, right? Myles Garrett had a strip sack. Those are things that you have to continue to work on and continue to do. Also, they talked about how he's so hard on himself in terms of, getting his mental psyche together. He said they talked about how difficult it was. He had to rehabilitate his mind in order to tell himself that if he had one bad game, it wasn't the end of the world. And if he had one good game, he hadn't made it. And I think all those things are a product of not being able to have a body of work. When you only play 10, 11 games in college, what happens is, and you get showered with all this praise, you don't have enough body of work to see success, sustained success, and sustained sustainability is in terms of your work ethic, your practice habits, and you don't have enough to believe it. Case in point, man, I work on the radio, right? And so I do YouTube, right? And some of the things about YouTube is, a lot of people can get very discouraged about seeing their viewers, and getting subscribers. So if you're a guy that wants to get into YouTube and you do all these videos and your videos get no views, you get 30, 40 views, and you're doing all this stuff, and then you turn to somebody else's channel, and they might have 400, 500,000 views. And you're like, wow, how are those guys getting those views? How are those people doing that? Like, does my content suck? How are people getting these amount of views? And because I've worked in the radio, and it's taken me, and I only work 1 or 2 days in the radio, right? Because I work in the radio, and I realized that I've worked in the radio to have my own show for just 2 days. I had to work 10 years to get that. 10. And I started off answering phones. I had to work 10 years to get 2 days consistently. And working those 2 days, I've been working those 2 days for 5 years to get an audience, to build a base, to be able to even sustain, to even get that level. So those are the things that we all talk about, and those are the things that we have to understand. And so that when I started YouTube and I didn't get subscribers, you know, I wasn't shaking. I wasn't gonna like stop doing videos. Heck, you see my subscriber count now. I'm transparent. I got like 1,800 subscribers. Okay. Some people don't like the stuff I put up. Okay. Like, I'm not shaken by that. Like, sometimes people don't like your content, sometimes they ain't. It ain't for everybody, right? But if you're a person, if I didn't have those experiences of going through that ups and downs of grinding, answering phones and answering phones for other hosts and creating and being a producer for other people. If I got into YouTube and never had no other experiences, I may be like, yo, all right, this ain't for me. I may get discouraged and just quit. So when you look at Dwayne Haskins, and I heard that today when the announcers was talking about that, and Spielman went into that, talking about he was really hard on himself, I looked at it and said, man, you got to have a temperament like no other to play the quarterback position in the league, because it's an elite position. It's only 30-something in them positions. It's like a head coach. There's only 30-something in them. It's like a GM. There's only 30-something in them. You got to be that guy 24 hours a day. And so when I heard that, I said, he don't got enough. He might not have the mental makeup. 5 turnovers today. And I looked at the Washington Redskins and I said, it don't matter how good you are at certain other positions. If you don't have that, they needed plays to be made. He didn't make them when they needed them to make it. I think the Redskins, I think Montez Sweat, they talk about Chase Young. That boy Montez Sweat is the deal. Good gracious. He played the run. I think Allen in the middle, he played his tail off. I think he played the run well. You know, I thought Bostic played well. I think Terry McLaurin was fighting. I thought that was a BS pass interference call too. Thought it was BS. That's normal hand fighting. That's par for the course. Par for the course when you're out here fighting. So I thought that was a BS penalty. I thought the defense played well. I thought they held up, and I thought for the most part they played really well and came out and showed out. So I thought those two things were some of the things I saw from the Washington side. But in general, I don't have a very strong feeling that by the end of the year, I just don't think that Dwayne Haskins is going to be that guy. I just don't. I don't see him going through progressions. He has a good arm, but I just don't think it's here. You know, I don't think he's seeing it. Some of the throws on the goal line, he threw the ball on the goal line a few times, and I could see what people seeing him, because he threw a couple times. He had to throw the ball before the receiver broke. I was like, oh, that's a great throw. That's a heck of a throw right there. But it's few and far between. Now let's get to the other side of the ball. Let's get to the Cleveland Browns. This is a game that I took the Cleveland Browns, and I said before my pregame show, I said Cleveland will win this game 41-23. It didn't totally turn out to be that. The score ended up being a little bit kind of the same thing. But for the Cleveland Browns, I think you can still see the growing pains of a young head coach. You still see the growing pains of a young head coach. You still see Baker Mayfield's growing pains. And you can still see some of the things that are hampering the squad. They come out with a win, and the most important thing, you did get to win. The Cleveland Browns a couple of years ago would have lost that game, because when Washington did go up 17, I believe it was, they went up 20-17, 3. When Washington did go up 3, that was a game that the traditional Browns would have lost, because they would have came down and fumbled, or they came down and not converted one of the third downs, and a drive would have stalled. But they did come out with that victory. So one of the things that we always talk about, and one of the things that we do speak about consistently, is what do you do? Are you going to continue to do that? And are you going to be consistent enough to hold your hat and hang your hat on something no matter what? I was tweeting with a lot of people during the game, And I tweeted out, how come I haven't seen any outside zone runs? How come I haven't seen any wide stretch runs? How come I haven't seen any off tackles plays? And one person did tweet and said, well, G. Bush, they're in the wide 9. They're not going to run that against a wide 9. Now, that showed some level of knowledge, and I thought, like, that was, okay, well, he obviously knows a little bit about the game. And I said, okay. But I said, that ain't got nothing to do with no outside run zone. I don't care if the defensive end is lined up on a hash mark. He can be in the 9, 11, 13, 15. He can be on the sideline. That has nothing to do with establishing the outside run game. You know why? Because that sets up my cutback game. That sets up my cutback. If he want to be outside, all I'm doing is reading color in the hole. Basically what I'm saying is all I'm doing is reading him. If he want to stay outside, then I'm going to cut it right back inside of him. Because guess what? Somebody else, now if he's outside, guess what? My guard can go up on a linebacker. Guess what? If that linebacker's in that hole, now I'll read the 3 technique. Is the 3 technique in this hole? I will bend it all the way back. I'll cut it back off the center. So it doesn't matter whether you're in a 9. I'm reading hole to hole to hole. It's like the whack-a-mole. Like you've been at Chuck E. Cheese. Boom, 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 boom. The running back's going to read, all right, my outside landing mark is outside. But I go, my landing mark is here. But I'm going to look. Let me start with A gap here. Boom. Is anybody there? If there's somebody here, I'll keep going. Let me go to B gap. Anybody in B gap? Nothing in B gap. Let me go to C gap. Somebody in C gap? Somebody there? I'll keep going. But chances are, in one of those gaps, somebody's not going to be there. That's what the stretch is all about. Because it teaches you either way you go, somebody's going to be wrong. Nobody's going to be in their gap every single time. And somebody somewhere down the line is going to win. Either your center, either your guard, or your tackle's going to win on either the defensive tackle, which is 3 technique, your 5 technique, which is outside your defensive end, or that middle linebacker or the outside linebacker. One of those guys is one of your guys is going to win up front. And then all you do is your running back is reading off of that. But all we talking about with the stretch is that's a landmark. That ain't saying that you got to run outside. Your landmark is outside. Cutback is available front side, and if you got a running back with vision, he has leeway to cut it all the way backside. I know I might be getting in the weeds a little bit, but that's the thought process where you open it up for everybody, front side to backside. I thought the Browns, they weren't sticking to what the principles were. First 3 quarters, it was a lot of between the guard tackle zone plays. That's not what it is. And you saw the Washington football team shutting all that down. Allen was like, no, you're not getting that off. That was easy. They were shutting that down. Point of attack, they wasn't getting nothing. Not until the third, at the late part of the third, early part of the fourth quarter, did you start to see the outside game. Once the outside game, you saw a couple of big runs, 20-something yard by Chubb, a nice couple of runs by Hunt. Now everything started to open up a little bit. Everything started to open up. And I think you're seeing young coaching staff need to continue to gain confidence to say, guess what? I need to continue to work that. I need to be able to work that. I thought they were a little pass happy in the first half. I thought they was a lot of 5 wide. Once again, let's spread Baker out. That's youth. Let's spread Baker. Let's put Baker 5 wide-ish. I get it. I get it. Baker has a lively arm, and I think sometimes when you see somebody do that in practice enough, you're like, but I think he can get the Patrick Mahomes off. But I think he can do it, though. Let's just give him a couple plays, get him in rhythm. But you saw the first half, he was erratic. Overthrow over here to Hooper. Overthrow to Odell Beckham Jr. It's overthrow. When he is not on the move and he's just in the pocket, he's not very accurate. He's not. Simple as that. If he's in the pocket, he's not very accurate. That's just what it is. And so those are the things that are you're going to have to take in consideration. You're going to have to think about it, because the Cleveland Browns, and here's what, and this is what I wanted to break down overall to kind of think about. The Cleveland Browns on defense today played their tail off. They played as good as they could have played. What you saw from the Cleveland Browns today on defense is the best. That is their ceiling. Goodson played as good as he can play. Carl Joseph played as good as he can play. That's ceiling. You got what you got from Myles Garrett. Sheldon Richardson gave you what he needs. You got to think about the way your team is constructed, right? So I kind of wanted to give this and go a different direction with this kind of recap. I've learned about the game a lot of different ways. And after I was done playing football, I like learning about a lot of different things, right? I never poo-poo different things like, I play cards like spades or euchre. I even, there's a couple people at work who play Dungeons and Dragons, and some people at work play Magic the Gathering. There's younger kids that were infatuated with Pokemon, and there's some people who love even the way you think about constructing things. I have older people that hang around that watch the military channel, and what I've learned is I'd watch these things because I'm just interested in knowledge and just learning stuff. And it has taught me a different way of thinking about the game and constructing and how to come up with strategy when you talking about 11 on 11. You're talking about offense, defense, special teams. To me, it's still all strategy, right? All strategy, right? Fighting games, video, it's still strategy-based programming at the end of the day. So when you're talking about how you build your team and how you go about constructing teams, you got to think about the way the Cleveland Browns are putting their team together. So if you're telling me the Cleveland Browns want to be a team that runs the ball heavy, they want to be a heavy run-based team and go for shot plays, strong offensive line, you then have to come up with a way, what does your defense have to be, right? So to do that, to be a strong, heavy-based offense that runs the ball, protects the ball, chews up clock, you have to have a knockout defense, right? Because if you're going to have that type of offense, you're going to be chewing the clock up. So you're not going to have very many possessions for yourself. You're cutting down the possessions in the game. So when the other team gets the football, you need your defense to be locked down. So what happens, you eat the possessions up. So when you got a great team on offense, it puts pressure on them because you're saying to themselves, hey, we're only going to have every single possession they have is at a premium. So when they get the ball, they play faster. They feel like they got to get chunk plays. They can't let the game come to them. You see what I'm saying? You got people that can stop the run. You got lockdown corners. So you have to build your team. You can't just think that you're going to do. You can't say, we got a regular defense. No, you have to have a world-class defense, right? So that you can marry the two. And then you can go into the playoffs and say, I really ain't got no problem with playing I don't have a problem with playing Patrick Mahomes because we got the best defense in the league. Offense versus defense, I'll take my chances. We don't got a problem playing against the Baltimore Ravens and Lamar Jackson because I got a defensive line that can run with Lamar Jackson. It don't matter. If I'm playing the Chiefs, I got corners that can run with them. We got the best 3 corners in the game. But you have to invest in that, right? That's how you got to play it. So it's about how you create your team. But you have to be conscious in doing that, right? Because the way the game is set up and the way the rules is set up, the rules are set up contra to the way you're building the Cleveland Browns now. The rules are set up differently. And you say, how do you figure they're set up differently, G. Bush? What do you mean by that? Well, the rules are set up opposite, right? The rules are counter to running the football. People say, well, just run the football. No, the rules are set up for not running the football. Case in point, it's set up for you to throw. If you got Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs, right? The rules say we want people to score and throw the ball, right? Anything you throw in the air and you get a pass interference, that's a spot foul. Like, you could be playing the best defense in the world all game, and somebody throws a spot foul. That's on the goal line, right? If you're playing great defense and you throwing the ball, guess what? Illegal contact after 5 yards. That's a first down. It could be fourth down. Illegal contact is new, fresh sets of downs. They get 5 yards, but they get 4 more chances to get another 4 downs. Illegal hands to the face of the quarterback, 15 yards. Another fresh set of downs. Think about how many different ways it is to continue to drive, and you giving it to one of the best quarterbacks in the game. And these dudes are precision, right? But then think about it if you're a running team, if you're built to run the football. Think about how many ways they can take you backwards. You can have a great run. You can call for holding. That's 10 yards. Do you know how difficult it is to regain 10 yards and it's 1st and 20 and you run the ball? It's quite difficult, right? It's very, very difficult to do that. There's not very many ways you can make those yards up. And so that's the way you have to think about and constructing your teams and the way that these things go hand in hand. So when I'm talking and critiquing people and you say, how does this wrap up with the Cleveland Browns? Bringing it back to circle one. When I'm critiquing and talking about the Cleveland Browns or the Washington football team, and I'm critiquing these teams, I'm not just trying to be just critical of these teams. I'm thinking from a perspective of how do you want to get your team to point A to point B. I'm thinking ahead of just playoffs. Yeah, it's great for me to say, all right, the Cleveland Browns can run the football, and they're good enough to run the football to get the 7th seed and make the playoffs. But I'm thinking along the lines of, if you really want to maximize and take this strategy that you kind of stumbled upon and build on that and get to the next level, you have to think about, all right, how does Baker have to play to really maximize, to really be where you want to be, to really capitalize on what you have? Because you have to think about it in these terms. Baker can't play the way he's playing now to maximize the strategy that they're employing, because you have to be able to hit certain throws. Right now, Baker can only hit 2 throws. And if you see it on the field, you can see it in the film work. And I challenge anybody to go back and look at this. The only throws that Baker is hitting that the defense is giving him is they're giving him the slant, and they're giving him the 7 to 10 yard middle in route. That's it. Ask yourself, when the last time you seen the Cleveland Browns throw the 10 to 15 yard deep out? Haven't seen it. When have you seen the Cleveland Browns with the post? When have you seen the skinny post? When have you seen the stop and goes? When have you seen the deep comeback routes? You haven't seen those routes. You've only seen 2 routes the Cleveland Browns consistently run. So the thought process is, if you want to go places, the Cleveland Browns need to be able to consistently move the chains. And right now, they can't move the chains on good teams. They can't move the chains if you need to just, all right, it's 3rd and 6. I need to move the sticks. To consistently move the chains on good teams if they want to keep the clock running. And to get there, that's what you need to do. That's what you need to do. Because if you ask yourself, who's getting the big contracts? Why did Patrick Mahomes get $500 million? Why did he get $1 billion? Well, because Patrick Mahomes, if you look at the people that are getting the most money, him and Deshaun Watson, those guys breaking it down, and we'll get out of here on this one. The reason why they're getting the money, and nobody has told you this, is because between him and Deshaun Watson, when they look at GMs and scouts, they look at the field and they look at quarterbacks and they look at your danger meter in terms of how dangerous are you throughout the whole field. Most quarterbacks are dangerous from starting from probably the 35-yard line to about the 35-yard line, right? Because you're only dangerous starting at the 35 because most quarterbacks can't throw the ball that far for arm strength, right? So arm strength at the 35 to about the 35. And most quarterbacks stop at the 35 because guess what? At the 35, the field constricts, right? So now you can use the boundary and the goal line as an extra defender because everything is constricted, right? You can play zone, you can play coverage. But the reason why Deshaun Watson and Patrick Mahomes are almost 100 yards is because, A, they have the arm strength that is more than most quarterbacks. Their arm strength is great. And you can't use the boundary in the end zone as a second or third defender because they have their legs. They can extend plays. They have mobility. And on top of it, they can create. They're creative. You know, they can throw from different angles. They can look people off. They can pump fake and throw over, up and under, different angles, different arm angles, run. They can do all of that. So theoretically, they can score every single time from any different angle, no matter where you're at on the field. Most quarterbacks don't have that opportunity to do. And so when you say, is he really worth $500,000? Yes. Every time he gets the ball, he can score. Doesn't matter. And it does not really matter what receivers they have and what running backs they have because they can either use their legs, they can use their creativity, they can use their awareness in it, they can use their mind, they can use their intelligence, all of that. They can use all of that to score at any given time. So after you start taking those things away from different people, then the money goes down. And you start getting into the, all right, Jared Goff, he's not going to use his leg. We'll give him 140. All right, cool. Carson Wentz, he can't stay healthy. We give him 125, right? So you get the sliding scale. So in general, we look at it, Cleveland Browns win the game and get an opportunity to now be 2-1 since the first time in 84 games or whatever. They get to win. They get another 200 yards on the ground. Great opportunity for them to go into Dallas again. 2-1. We'll see how that game goes. But it's just all about what Baker's going to do. Next game, stakes rise a little bit because now they're going to be playing against a team, way more athletes, way more opportunity to score. So Dallas is going to score points. Way better offensive line, top 5 offensive line. And now you're definitely going to have to score points when you go down to Dallas. Washington, on the other end, Chase Young was out. Washington played tough, but I just don't think Haskins is the guy. And I wouldn't be surprised to see Alex Smith. Probably week 7 or 8, would not be surprised to see Alex Smith. As always, hit the like and subscribe button. I appreciate y'all. It's a little bit of a long, off-stretch, overdrawn. Sorry about the lighting. Sorry about the moving around. But as always, it's the Barbershop. Please hit like and subscribe that button. ShopFifthMerch.com. Peace.